Alright guys, today in class we talked about complex fractions, and we talked about how when we look at these problems, they look intimidating. Like this looks like a crazy set of numbers that we don't really know what to do with. But if we look deeper and we break it down, we can break it down into some more simplistic pieces that we know how to solve. And it's really not that bad. It just takes a couple of steps to get there. So when you have problems that look like this, what this is saying really is 7/8, and we know that the fraction bar is the same thing as division, so it's 7/8 divided by 1/2. Now, when we write that as a problem we know how to solve, it's nice and easy. 7/8 divided by 1/2, we know that that's a division of a fraction by a fraction, so we can just keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep 7/8, we're going to change our division to multiplication, and then we're going to flip 1/2 to become 2/1. Now we have a multiplication of a fraction by a fraction problem, and we know we just multiply our numerators. 7 times 2 is 14, 8 times 1 is 8, so we have 14/8. Now we can't leave it that way. That's an improper fraction, so we have to turn that into a mixed number. 8 goes into 14 one whole time with 6/8 remaining. So we can simplify our 6/8 to 3/4. We can divide both of those by 2. Our final answer is 1 3/4. Okay. Now if we look at our second problem here, same type of situation, but instead of a fraction divided by a fraction, we have 3/4 divided by 6. So we have a fraction divided by a whole number. Again, we're going to write it out as 3/4 divided by 6. And I know that I can make 6 a fraction by just adding a 1 underneath of it. 6/1 is the same thing as 6. So now we have a fraction divided by a fraction, and we can just do keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep 3/4. We're going to change our multiplication, change our division to multiplication, and then we're going to flip 6/1 to become 1/6. Now we have a fraction multiplied by a fraction, so we just multiply straight across. 3 times 1 is 3. 4 times 6 is 24. Now we can't leave it that way because that can be simplified. We can simplify each of these by 3. And so 3 divided by 3 would give us 1, and then 24 divided by 3 would give us 8. So our final answer is 1/8. Okay. Now, a third type of complex fraction you might see will have, a numerator, might be a whole number, might be another fraction, and it might have some operations that we have to do in the denominator. So what we have to do first is we have to add up our fractions down here at the bottom. And these are unlike denominators. So the first thing that we're going to have to do is create equivalent fractions that we can add. So I know the least common multiple between 2 and 3 is 6. And so I'm going to create equivalent fractions that have denominators of 6. So I have 1/2 is going to become 3/6. And then 1/3 is going to become 2/6. And when we have common denominators, now we can just add our fractions. So we have 3 plus 2, that gives us 5/6. And so now we have a problem that is 6 divided by 5/6. So we have a whole number divided by a fraction. So I'm going to write it out like 6/1 because I know 6/1 is the same thing as just 6, our whole number, divided by, because remember we said our fraction bar is the same thing as division, 5/6. Now, it's super important that we write out this step. A lot of people try to skip this step. They try to do keep, change, flip from here. And that's where a lot of people go wrong. It's so important that you take 6/5/6 and write it out as 6/1 divided by 5/6. Please do not skip this step because students that skip this step generally miss this question because they forget the flip. So this step is super important to write out right here. So from here, we have a fraction divided by a fraction. So now we can just keep, change, flip. We're going to keep our 6/1. We're going to change our division to multiplication. And then we're going to flip 5/6 to become 6/5. And now we have a fraction times a fraction. And so we can just multiply straight across. 6 times 6 is 36. 1 times 5 is 5. Now, can't leave our answer like that because it's an improper fraction. So we have to ask ourselves, how many times does 5 go into 36? And it goes 7 whole times with 1/5 remaining. I can't simplify 1/5, so our final answer is 7 1/5. So again, these problems look intimidating, they look crazy, but you can break them down into individual pieces that are more manageable to solve.